Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about who the best Smash Ultimate player in the world is. Currently, the 2024 season is almost halfway through, at least for the first iteration, and we've had a bunch of major events at this point, so we have a pretty decent gauge, and we're also going to be touching a little bit on the top 10, just because I don't think the Lumi rank really showed the top 10 players in the world accurately, just because it was a whole year ranking, but the main focus is going to be who is the best right now. So let's actually look at all the events that have taken place this year so we have a basis to go from. And there have been 6 majors. You're going to have Delta 7, which was in 2023, but is part of the 2024 ranking season. And you're going to have Mia winning that event with Tama P as the runner-up. You're going to have King Kong with MKLeo winning that event and Spargo as the runner-up. You're going to have Luminosity makes big moves with Tweak as the winner and Sonics as the runner-up. You're going to have Kaloon 9 with Mia as the winner and Raricoon as the runner-up. And then you're going to have our 2 P-tier events. You're going to have Umbora, which was just barely a P-tier. I mean, it does have 900 points more, but not a super massive P-tier with Akola as the winner and Mia as the runner-up. And our biggest event by far is going to have Zomba as the winner and Sonics as the runner-up. And I think it's fair enough to say that if you haven't gotten a grand finals at a major event, you're not even going to be in contention for being the best Smash Ultimate player in the world, and that is going to eliminate a couple very high up contenders, most notably Gluttony and Light. There's a couple other people as well that are very good. T's very good, Shuton's very good, Riddle's very good, but I think Light and Gluttony have the best chance of the players that haven't been to grand finals to actually be ranked #1, so I do want to give them a quick shout out here because it's not like they've had bad seasons. Gluttony does have a little bit of a mishap at Genesis, but it wasn't anything crazy, and there hasn't been too many events for these players to prove themselves. As Smash Ultimate gets more and more into the 2024 year, I think they have what it takes to be #1 at their current form. They're obviously going to have to get better as the game gets better, but they are fairly close. They just haven't had that grand finals yet, so that's the last you'll hear of them in this video. So now that we've established that, we can actually look at our grand finalists and see which of these guys is the cream of the crop, the potential best player in the world. And immediately, there's 2 names that we're going to be eliminating, and that is very obviously Tama P and Raricoon. And it's no offense to these players, they are both incredible, but they are not close to that #1 caliber yet. I think especially Tama P has what it takes, and I think Bayonetta is a character that you can become the best in the world with. I'm not going to say that for Raricoon quite yet, just because I don't think you can do it with Luigi, but there's a lot of things in this game that I've been wrong about before, so it's not impossible. And as you can see, Raricoon and Tama P do have very good results. You are going to have both of them with slight mishaps at Umabora, but outside of that, they've had pretty incredible seasons, and I think they are going to get significantly better going into 2024, but just not quite #1 better, at least yet. The next player that we're going to be eliminating is MKLeo, and it hurts me to say this, but Mr. Genesis is not #1 in the world because of Genesis. This run is easily the only thing that is taking him out of the running. With this unranked loss to Titan, this is the worst loss that anyone in contention for #1 has, which is super unfortunate. No offense to Titan, of course. Very good player. He beat MKLeo, but that alone kind of takes Leo out of the running, and it also doesn't help that he has a loss to Gak, which is one of the worst losses that anyone that is in contention for #1 has. Same thing, Gak, very talented player, at least top 40 in the world, but when you're looking at the rest of these players who are #1, their worst losses are in like the top 20 or something, so that's definitely going to hurt Leo. And outside of that, he has been quite exceptional. He's going to have this 4th place at Luminosity makes big moves, only losing to Tweak and Spargo, beating Spargo as well as Meister. He's going to win King Kong with no sets dropped, which I think is very important. And I think MKLeo still has a chance to be #1 going into the 2024 ranking season, but as it stands right now, he's just not there yet. The next 2 players that I'm going to be eliminating are Zomba and Mia. Now, the Zomba one is a lot more self-explanatory because he's just going to have some underperformances at the Japan trip. And by underperformances, I mean he got 9th place at worst, and his worst loss is going to go to Toragori, who is probably in the top 50, guaranteed in the top 100, which honestly isn't terrible. Dorimiki's not a bad loss either. He's going to be somewhere in the top 25. And when you look at his Kowloon losses, it's a very similar situation. Yaura is definitely going to be in the top 20, and I would argue Hurt is a top 10 player in the world. He's going to have a win at Cafeteria Cup, and most importantly, he's going to win Genesis. He's going to beat Tweak, he's going to beat Sonic twice, he's going to beat Spargo, he beats Gluttony as well, only dropping 1 set to Sonic, so he wins Valhalla as well. So Zomba obviously having a very good year, but if you've missed a top 8 spot, I don't really think you can be in contention for #1 in the world, considering that Tweak, Sonics, Spargo, Akola have gotten like 4th as their worst place, so he's got 2 misses in the top 8, so it's going to be kicking him out. And it's the exact same situation for Mia, and I'm not going to lie, it feels really weird for me to not have Mia in contention for #1 to eliminate him so early, because he has won the most majors of anyone, and by that I mean 2, but there hasn't been too many majors here, so fair enough. He's won like, what, 33% of the majors. He's going to get this win at Delta 7, where he does drop a set to Tama P, but he beats Tama P, Shuton, Osimo, and Gak. Second at Umaboro, only losing to Glutzy and Akola, who are both top 10 in the world with a bunch of really solid wins. He's going to win Kowloon, which was the biggest S+ tier event that we've had, just above Luminosity Makes Big Moves. But it's Genesis where he ultimately falters. He's going to lose to Raflo and Zachary. Zachary, not a bad loss. He's going to be somewhere in the top 25. I think Raflo's top 30 at least right now. He's been pretty incredible. But as I already established, if you are missing even a top 8, it's just so hard for me to consider you number 1 because everyone else has only top 4. So Mia and Zomba, they're going to be eliminated, but that doesn't mean they can't be the best later. And I really quickly just want to paint the picture of what my top 10 looks like before we get into this next segment. So my 10 best players in the world are Akola, Tweak, Sonic, Spargo, MKLeo, Zomba, Mia, Light, Shuton in no particular order. And if you're fast at counting, you'll notice that that's only 9 players. That's because that number 10 spot, I have no idea who should be going into it. You have Glutzy, for example. He's got the highest highs out of anyone on this part of the list with a 3rd place at Umabora, 3rd place at a Peach. That sounds pretty good to me. He's also got a really nice win at Altcore, only regional, but still a win where he didn't drop a set. But he's got a 9th at Cafeteria Cup, and a 17th at Kowloon, and a 13th at Genesis. Should he be top 10? Maybe, but there's also players like Neo, for example, who's got a 13th at Delta 7 and a 9th at Kowloon as his bad result. But he's got a 3rd at Cafeteria Cup, he's got a 5th at Genesis, he's got a 5th at King Kong, and then you have T, Shattuck, and Ken. They've all only been to 2 major events, but you're going to have Ken with a 5th place at Umabora and a 9th place at Genesis. You have Shattuck with a 9th place at LMBM and a 7th place at Genesis. You have T with a 9th place at Umabora and a 7th place at Genesis. And then you have Hurt, who's only been to 1 event, but he got 4th place at Kowloon. So all of these players, I think, have very strong arguments for being in the top 10. So what I'm going to be doing instead for this next segment, instead of talking about head to heads versus the top 10, I'm just going to make this gap non-existent and talk about head to heads for the top 15. So it's a lot easier for me. Editing for Fluck here, I have made the executive decision to make the top 15 the top 20 players in the world because there were 5 people that I just completely forgot about that are all easily in contention for that top 15. The first one is going to be Kameme, and it's the exact same reasoning that I used for Hurt. Hurt has only 1 result at a major event. It's going to be a 4th place at Kowloon. Kameme only has 1 result at a major event, and it's going to be 4th place at Umabora, which was a bigger event than Kowloon, so he should be slotted into that top 20. Then you're going to have Yara, who was honestly in very close contention for being in the top 10. I just kind of forgot, and the only thing that's kind of keeping him out would be this 33rd at Genesis, but I could still see arguments for it because he only loses to Shattuck and Gak, which are very good losses, and he has a 5th at Kowloon, 7th at Umabora, and a 5th at Delta 7. Then you're going to have Osimo. He's got a 4th place at Delta 7, 13th at Umabora, which is a little bit lower, as well as a little bit lower at Genesis with a 17th, but again, no real bad losses at either of those events. He's got a 5th at Cafeteria Cup, and he's got this monster 3rd place at Kowloon, which is going to be the thing that ultimately got him into the top 20. Then you're going to have Meister. He's got a 5th at LMBM and a 9th place at Genesis with no bad losses at either event. And then finally, you're going to have Dora Miggy. He's got a 7th at Umabora and a 5th at Kowloon, as well as a 4th at Sumobato SB44, even though it's only a regional event. So those are going to be my top 20 players in the world. Please do not ask me to order them because I have no idea. And I also wanted to give an honorable mention to Yoshidora and Riddles, not because I think they're in contention for the top 20 right now, because straight up, they just aren't. You're going to have Yoshidora with a 9th at Umabora and a 33rd at Kowloon with no top 20 wins. And for Riddles, you're going to have a 9th at LMBM and a 9th at Genesis. 2 very good placements, but no top 20 wins there either. And the reason that I'm mentioning them is because both of these guys are extremely talented. And I would honestly be super shocked if they weren't top 20 by the 2024 halfway ranking season. But as it stands right now, they just don't have the results. The sample size is super small, so they're not going to be top 20, but I wanted to give them a shout because they are very, very good. So now that we've gone over my rough top 20, we can talk about who is going to be the best Smash Ultimate player for 2024 so far. And first candidate is going to be Spargo. He has a 6-6 record versus the top 20, which is still pretty solid, and a 6-0 record versus the top 50. And this is going to be the best record out of anyone on this list for the top 50. Then you're going to have Sonic. He is 7-4 versus the top 20 and 3-0 versus the top 50. So obviously very good. Then you're going to have Akola, who is easily the hardest person for me to rank on this entire list because he has been to 1 tournament and he ended up winning that tournament. It was Umabora. He is 4-0 versus the top 20, 1-0 versus the top 50. He has had a perfect season. And then finally, you're going to have Tweak, who is 7-2 versus the top 20 and 2-0 versus the top 50. And I kind of touched on this earlier in the video, but I want to make a bigger point of it now that ultimately this isn't going to be the perfect ranking because the sample size is so small. We don't have a ton to work with. You look at Spargo, he has been to 3 major events, and that's the most out of anyone in contention for #1 alongside players like Leo. You have Sonics and Tweak, they've only been to 2 events. You have Akola, he's only been to 1 event, but since Spargo has been to 3 events and he hasn't won any of them, he's going to be taking 6 losses there. Just that's how things work. And in case you're curious who he lost to, he ended up losing to Leo 3 times, twice at King and once at LMBM. You're going to have him losing to Sonics twice, once at LMBM and once at Genesis, and he's also going to drop a set to Zomba at Genesis. So all of those are incredible losses, but it's going to be the reason that we are ultimately eliminating Spargo. And another reason is going to be that his head-to-head versus the top 10 currently isn't super good. The only player in the top 10 that he has a winning record on is going to be Light, where he is up 2-0, but every other player that was in contention for that #1 spot or is just top 10 is going to be a losing record or just a player that he hasn't played yet. So that's kind of the problem with our sample size. And even though Spargo is going to be eliminated right now, it doesn't mean that he can't be the best player in the world. Obviously, everyone that's been on the list can be the best player in the world. That's why they were all in the conversation for it. But because Spargo has been to so many events and he hasn't gotten too many good records at those events, he's going to be knocked out. And since we looked at Spargo's head-to-heads versus the top 10, and by top 10, I mean top 9, because I just don't know who the 10th best player in the world is, we're also going to be doing that for Sonics, Akola, and Tweak. Sonics is going to have a winning record versus Spargo and Shootone, and a losing record versus Zomba and Tweak, but it should be noted that he has taken sets off from both of those players. Akola is going to have a winning record versus Shootone and Mia, and he hasn't lost a set in 2024, so he's got winning records versus everyone. And Tweak's going to have a winning record versus MK Leo, Sonics, and Light, and he's only going to have a losing record versus Zomba. And this is the tricky part of the video because in my opinion, these are the only 3 players that you can put into the conversation for best in the world right now, just based off the 2024 result. And it feels really weird to say that because Spargo, he's still been incredible. His worst placement is a 3rd, but his head-to-heads just aren't good enough. You have Mia and Zomba winning massive events. Mia's win is going to be better than Tweak's win, and Zomba's going to win the biggest event of the year, but they have inconsistencies that are kind of keeping them out. And it really does just come down to what do you value. Sonics, I would argue, is the most consistent player of 2024. He's got 2 second places, and even in his losing matchups, he's still taken sets off of both of those players. Then you're going to have Tweak, who has the best head-to-head versus anyone in the top 20. I know Akola's is flawless, but 7-2 is very impressive from Tweak. But then you have Akola, who is flawless. He has no losses, and he is ultimately going to be my #1 pick for the best player in the world currently in Smash Ultimate because he just hasn't lost in 2024. I feel like you kind of have to give it to him. And obviously, there was going to be problems with this video because the sample size was so small. Akola's only been to 1 event, and Sonics and Tweak have only been to 2. It's not like they're that much better. But let me know what y'all think. Who do you think the best player in the world is? And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The sport has been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.